For me, it's a way of remembering, and I don't think there's anybody in Oklahoma City that was not touched by it.
6 days from now, thousands of runners will toe the starting line for this year's Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon.
Everyone who crosses that finish line has a personal story.
A run to remember the 168 people who lost their lives on April 19th, 1995.
The whole time I'm running, I'm trying to get myself prepared for that moment when I start seeing those faces of those people. It's emotional.
And also to fulfill the marathon's mission as the primary fundraiser for the memorial that honors the victims, survivors, first responders, and everyone changed forever that day.
This is probably the most meaningful marathon, I think, in the United States.
2, 1, go!
Just that feeling of like, man, it's like one big team, but it's like thousands of us.
And so the marathon's just kind of like the exclamation mark on Oklahoma City.
It just has become a celebration of life.
You have to see the joy, the love, everything positive in something to get further.
Run to Remember, presented by Devon Energy.
I'm Carl Torp.
And I'm Amanda Taylor. We are outside the Oklahoma City National Memorial. 18,000 runners from every state in the U.S., also from a dozen other countries, will be here just 6 days from now for the Run to Remember.
This is the 23rd Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon, a chance to support the memorial and museum dedicated to the victims, survivors, and first responders from April 19th, 1995. It is also, though, a celebration of life and how far our city has come.
We come here to remember those who were killed, those who survived, and those changed forever. May all who leave here know the impact of violence. May this memorial offer comfort, strength, peace, hope, and serenity.
Those words, the mission of the Oklahoma City National Memorial, read each year before the start of the Memorial Marathon. This year, John Kennedy will be saying them. He's also one of the people who helped write them.
We sat in a pretty small room for about 3 days and considered every word in that mission statement, some of them literally for hours, and we came up with a consensus for that mission statement.
It's followed by 168 seconds of silence.
Looking at the look of their faces and seeing that they're really thinking about why they're here, why they're running, coming together, which is how we came together right after this tragedy.
Everything about the race is to honor that mission.
A lot of these family members I know have kids or grandkids running in their honor.
Even the marathon itself is symbolic.
It's a grind. It's very much like the lives these families have lived, and it's very reflective of what our community has gone through.
As friends, neighbors, perfect strangers line the course to cheer or hand out water or volunteer in some way.
But that's where it's so reflective of back to the 1995 when the city came together. And there were no city boundaries, there was no turnpike bridging us in Tulsa. We were just Oklahomans. That's where the Oklahoma Standard was built and really created. The world stopped and watched how we treated each other.
This year, News 9 is proud to bring that all to you.
A partnership of the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon and Oklahoma's own News 9.
It's something that we want people to remember and to honor the families and those affected. And I think the marathon's a great way of doing it. It's just one of those events that we need to be part of.
You remember each one.
It's Oklahoma City's biggest weekend, rising up out of our biggest tragedy.
We spent a lot of time talking about the word hope because to many people 28 years ago, there wasn't a lot of hope.
A celebration of life and how far the city has come since these words were written.
And then when you get to the finish line, 9 times out of 10, your medal is put over your neck by a family member, survivor, first responder, or someone who has contributed greatly to this community that's ready to celebrate what you've accomplished.
As the runners count down to the start of the race here, the mission behind the marathon surrounds them. Runners and spectators will see the banners with all 168 victims' names on Classen Boulevard from Belle Isle to to Northwest 18th Street and along both sides of Lincoln Boulevard from 4th to 18th Street. Crews from OG&E hung the banners about a month before the race, including one for Susan Jane Farrell.
My sister is Susan Jane Farrell, and she was a lawyer for the Department of Housing and Urban Development.
The Easter Sunday when this picture was taken back in 1995 was the last big family gathering before Susie Farrell was killed in the bombing.
The bombing will always be part of our family story.
That same picture now on the mantle over the fireplace in Susie's home.
She loved this neighborhood.
Yeah.
And all the people here.
Where her family gathers every spring, the night before the Memorial Marathon, for a big pasta dinner.
We get together every year and it just has become a celebration of life, a celebration of our family, how much we've overcome, how much the state has overcome.
Adam 38, are you on the north side of the federal building with people buried? Building that are not moving, they're unconscious and not moving.
When the bombing happened, Susie's sister Cindy was an attorney in Chandler.
I just thought, I'm just going to drive down there and I'm going to find her. I noticed every blonde-haired woman who walked past me.
Cindy's husband, Albert, was with emergency management.
Working was the easy part. You know, going home's the hard part. Because you want to be the bearer of good news and you want to tell them you found our loved one.
But Susie didn't survive.
It's difficult to realize over the years that you have events that occur in your life that there's a very important person that is never able to be there, a part of it. And that's just a reality that Rachel and I have had to grow up with.
The family never misses an April 19th remembrance ceremony.
Susan Jane Farrell.
And they never miss a memorial marathon.
We have embraced it. We love it. It brings us joy.
One of the most meaningful parts of the whole weekend is the start line when they have 168 seconds of silence. When no matter how many thousands and thousands of people are out there, it gets completely silent. And you remember why you're there.
At one point or another, everyone in the family has run in the race.
This wording, celebrate life, the beauty and the pain, is something that Susie wrote.
Including Susie's parents.
I thought that would be a snap. But when I was finished, I sat down and I thought, that's not good enough.
That's not a good idea.
The last time her dad ran, he was 85 years old.
I guess I was the only one that ran in the 75 to 99 year class.
You beat the 92-year-old?
I beat him by half an hour.
Now the finish line.
Memory boards from all those past races.
I ran the half marathon and I finished it, and the first face that I saw was my grandpa handing out medals.
Are always on display for that pre-race pasta party.
I know it's important for you to be involved in this and to go out and support it, but why is it also important for you to actually run in it?
It's something that we can actually physically do to remember people.
I think we can do it every year.
In recent years, the family had this banner made to put up in Edgemere Park on race day. And Susie's parents now cheer on the runners.
Every year, no matter how we participate, we're always going to be there.
I think Susie would be so happy about what we're doing. She would be so happy that we're celebrating her and each other.
Still to come, we'll take you behind the scenes of what it takes to put on an event this size every year. Plus how one volunteer says this race is helping him heal.
It really takes a village. We run through 3 cities. It takes all those police forces, all those cities, public works departments helping us. And it takes a lot of people.
A lot of people, and also about a year's worth of planning to put on the Run to Remember.
And what's really exciting for us is the route goes right in front of News 9's new downtown home. Our Lisa Monahan shows us what it takes to get the marathon across the finish line.
Oklahomans banded together with acts of service following the 1995 tragedy. The Oklahoma Standard, as it's known, now drives countless volunteers with the same spirit of generosity to make this marathon possible.
For every foot that crosses the finish line,
dedicated, hardworking people are willing to lend a hand.
We have kind of a formula of, how many we need and, along the course and at the finish line.
More than 2,000 volunteers, including 12 people who've helped in all 23 Oklahoma City Memorial Marathons, are essential to the course on race day. As the Memorial Marathon General Manager, Lynn Porter is responsible for making sure everything runs smoothly.
It includes getting all the medals, event shirts, registration, and it's also an excitement to see how it all runs behind the scenes and get it ready because it's such a powerful weekend.
The coordinated effort by the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum staff and a group of 50 volunteer chairmen is a major undertaking.
We have a chairman's meeting once a month, and then we organize all of this.
For the better part of a year, they've been ordering, stockpiling, and preparing to distribute some 15 gallons of pickle juice, 500 pounds of pretzels, 576,000 ounces of water, and an endless list of medical supplies for the runners on race day.
A Band-Aid, fix a blister, pickle juice, pretzels, water, keep them going.
Recruiting the 250 medical volunteers to properly staff 16 medical stations is also a part of pre-race preparations. But so is setting up and maintaining the course from start to finish.
They have hundreds of course marshals. Every cross street will have a marshal or a series of marshals to make sure the runners are going in the right direction. And it's all about safety.
Hundreds of police officers will also be strategically positioned along the 26-mile course.
It takes a lot of planning, a lot of driving the routes constantly, making sure there's no surprises.
As an extra safety precaution, Oklahoma City Police Captain Adria George helped marathon organizers develop a plan to implement a no-bag policy on the course.
There is a bag check. We would really like for you to use that because, as we've seen in years past, once you're running, you decide you don't want something, you throw it down, lay it down, and that can present a problem for us as well.
Officers will also be helping with crowd control, looking for any suspicious behavior, and enforcing all road closures.
Our whole goal is to make sure that everybody coming and watching and participating are safe and they have a great time while they're in the city.
Athletic trainer Nick Chafee is one of the hundreds of volunteers who make the race possible. He lost his mom April 19th, 1995, and says giving back to the marathon is helping him heal and find purpose.
My mom's name is Ronalyn Keener Chafee. She worked in the DEA.
Nick Chafee was only 4 years old when his mom was killed in the Murrah building bombing.
She was on the night floor. In a way, like, these pictures are my memories.
Snapshots of important moments are all he knows of her.
I always think what life could be with my mom in the picture.
Growing up, Nick knew his mom died in a terrible way, but his family kept him sheltered from the horror of the bombing.
To headquarters, there's people trapped on in the big floor. 100 block at Northwest 6th and
It seemed like it was always the elephant in the room. Like, I knew this major event had happened, but I always felt distant from my family.
Then, when he was in high school, curiosity brought him here to the Oklahoma City National Memorial for the first time.
God, I did not know how hard that was going to be. And in a way that felt traumatic, just because so much of what I saw I've never seen before.
Yet Nick began to feel a connection to the tragedy he hadn't known before.
I should cut this out too. This is what it was really like down there, and this is what, like, people that experience it remember it as. This one's the day after.
His aunt also saved a trove of newspaper articles and memorabilia that she gave to Nick. The memorial he once saw as a place of peace, now part of a bigger picture.
About a third of the building has been blown away.
It makes me see that place is more what it was than what it is.
As a young adult, Nick began participating in the marathon, running the half and the relay.
So where's all your pain at?
And now a trainer for Mustang Public Schools. He's part of the medical team for the race.
For me to be able to come on course and use my skill set gives me purpose in a way.
This year, he'll be working at one of the on-course medical stations. As a kid, Nick says sports helped him escape what happened to his mother. Now he believes it's bringing him closer to her.
I just don't have very many memories of the bombing or of that moment. And things like working the marathon or just being involved in general is a way for me to develop memories and create positive memories for the event and my mom.
Coming up, we get an inside look at how to train for a 26-mile race with running expert Mark Bravo. Plus, our own Robin Marr shares with us her story of helping her son get ready for his first ever Run to Remember.
A marathon is 26.2 miles. The most elite runners will pass by here at the Paycom Center and make their way to the finish line in about 2.5 hours.
But what goes into making sure you're ready to go the distance? Our Chris Williams shows us what goes into all that training.
You know you're a runner when your weekends start earlier than your weekdays.
The most daunting question when preparing for a big race is, where do I begin?
A lot of folks see the marathon, they want to do that next month. Well, we've got to build up, and a great way to get started is by walking and then walk running. Intermittent breaks between walking and running. It's a powerful way to raise your game.
And that's just to build up your base before you really start training.
When I first started, I could only run 2 miles.
For runners who are planning to take on the full marathon, race announcer Mark Bravo says you need to start about 4 months before race day.
I would like to see you have basically 16 weeks, 4 months to prepare for that.
Bravo says at this point, the week before the race,
about 20 miles a week under your belt. That can be 5 4-mile runs. That can be 3 6 to 7 mile runs.
Surprisingly, Bravo says he urges athletes not to run the full distance before the race.
In training for the half marathon, often you will see efforts go to about the 10-mile mark. For the marathon, to 18 or 20.
Save the big finale for race day.
There's a special lift you get when you exceed the longest distance you've ever done.
It's an even bigger boost in a run as meaningful as the OKC Memorial Marathon.
The reason why you're running it is, to remember all those lives lost on that day.
And it gives you a whole new look, not only on the day and the effort, but on life.
And don't forget to celebrate every step along the way.
You feel so good about yourself. I mean, when you push yourself to the distance and you feel like laying in the grass and you're like exhausted, it does something for you as a person.
Our Robin Marsh has signed up to run the 5K this Saturday. She spent the first month of her career for News 9 covering the aftermath of April 19.
And this year's Run to Remember has even more personal meaning for her because of one very special runner.
My name's Cade Kennedy. I'm 23, and I run to remember. Just gotta take it one day at a time now. You're really doing this for them and yourself. It's like you're gonna be tired, but you're gonna have just so much emotion and like adrenaline behind you. But when you're done, you're like, you feel so relieved. It's definitely cool to run for someone and just also run for yourself. It really just kind of started around the end of November, and I kind of just went for a run one day and I was like, you know what, like I kind of like this.
A love for running as a sport was birthed in Cade Kennedy 5 months ago, and he has never looked back. And that love for this senior at the University of Oklahoma
Feel loose.
Turned his heart to dreaming about running his first race.
You're in the moment, it's like, all right,
That's when his mom gave him the idea about running in April in Oklahoma City.
When you mentioned the Memorial Marathon, I was like, okay, well, this sounds like something interesting.
And so you decided to do the half marathon?
Yes, I'm gonna do the half marathon on April 30th, and I'm very excited. I can't wait.
So as Cade's mom,
did you get that green hat to run in?
I knew the two of us needed to revisit.
Yeah.
And I have the gloves,
okay.
so.
Yeah, perfect.
The Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum.
It's very peaceful, and
to never forget what happened in April of 1995.
That
just so horrific, but seeing it in person, I mean, it looked like something in a war-torn area.
Very powerful to take out that much of the building.
Your attention quickly over here, one of the first ambulances. We don't know if there's anyone being transported at this time or not. We'll check on that.
I'll never forget it.
Like that dark smoke, just like...
It was overwhelming even to comprehend as we got down here to cover it. I remember the first time I turned and just saw that.
Like the smoke and everything.
The images.
Just said, what can we do to help?
He was the pastor at the church. That's where I was that night.
Just think about like the kids.
I was there that day when they brought Timothy McVeigh out of the Noble County Courthouse.
He was in an ambulance with a child that did resemble this baby, but we have been in contact with every hospital. I've called every hospital myself.
I come here with my boy. I just come here as a mom, and it's just hard to see someone lose their child.
Outside on these sacred grounds,
It's beautiful out here, though, isn't it?
It is peaceful.
Peaceful.
another sobering reminder of how fragile life really is.
She was a young mom.
Mm-hmm.
Not much older than you right now.
A year older.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
She was 24.
Mm-hmm. 23.
Wow. And she had a baby.
I know. That puts it into perspective too.
Yeah, doesn't it?
After going through the memorial together, it's really doing it for the families, you know? And I think that's a huge thing for me, because when you told me to look for someone to run for, like Dana Cooper and Anthony Cooper Jr., yeah, it just really puts it into perspective too.
Yeah.
It's like they lost their lives that day, and here I am 28 years later, that this is something that their families are gonna see me run for them.
Cade says learning from the past reminds him of doing his part by sharing the story of Oklahoma City and always keeping the Oklahoma standard front of mind.
Being kind to people. There really is no better way to make someone's day. And I think that's a big thing, because you taught me that. And like, you really taught me what it meant to be an Oklahoman, you know? Come on, don't cry, I love you. You exemplified really well on how an Oklahoman should be. And from 1995, from then on, still been doing great. And just a huge role model, you know, for not just me, for every Oklahoman. And it's by showing selflessness and being kind.
Is it emotional for you?
Yeah, it's definitely gonna be very emotional, just kind of
And
like...
so when this young man runs to remember, he says there is something also that he'll carry in his heart.
The biggest thing I took away was always have hope. And I really think that is a huge takeaway to have, because without hope, there's gonna be no progression towards being a better community. In simple terms, that's it, you know?
That's my guy.
Race weekend officially kicks off this Friday with the Health and Fitness Expo. It runs from 11 to 7 Friday and 9 to 6 on Saturday. Runners will need to pick up their packets. They can also customize their race bibs and browse dozens of vendors to get all geared up for the big run. Don't forget to stop by the News 9 booth.
Up next, we'll break down the full weekend of Run to Remember events, plus give you an inside look at the first ever senior marathon. The first race of the weekend starts Saturday morning at the Oklahoma City National Memorial and Museum.
The 5Kers get a start at 7 a.m. and they pass here by the Oklahoma River on their route. A brand new event this year, the senior marathon starts at 8. Kids marathoners run at 9. And Saturday wraps up with the Blessing of the Shoes service at 6:30 at First Church OKC.
Sunday starts with a sunrise mass at 5 a.m. at St. Joseph's Cathedral and a prayer service at the Survivor Tree at 5:30. After 168 seconds of silence to honor the victims, wheelchair marathon and half marathoners hit the course at 6:25. Marathon, half marathon, and relay runners start at 6:30, and it all wraps up at the Finish Line Festival from 8:30 to noon. This is the first year ever for the Senior Marathon, where those over the age of 65 can walk or run 25 miles before race day and then finish up the final 1.2 miles on Saturday.
Our Jordan Daphnis introduces us to a Chickasha man who wouldn't miss this for anything.
We were preparing for the half marathon 12 years ago.
Not just walking in the marathon, but a chance to break records.
My name is Burl Gamble, and I am 102 years old and enjoying life.
Burl is the oldest man to ever compete.
I was the first to be 100 years or older, and it was a real surprise when we finished.
Because all of these steps aren't coming alone.
We walk regularly, yes.
This is Irene Park, his neighbor and training partner.
Our walks here in the neighborhood, 5 days, 6 days, regularly.
Walking to stay healthy.
I love it. Yeah, what could be more pleasant?
Walking because they enjoy it.
I can do a lot of thinking when I'm walking.
Walking, so they don't forget what happened April 19th, 1995.
The devastation was just appalling. Yeah, when we saw the TV pictures of the building was just a rubble.
Everywhere down here, smoke billowing into the air.
It was a tragedy that impacted us all.
Susan Winchester, she was our state representative from this area for a number of years, and she lost a sister in the bombing.
The two had a connection to the bombing.
There's chaos everywhere.
Now, the two have a connection to each other. This time,
her friendship is
joyful.
I think one of the reasons I'm still living.
Of course I love him. And I feel extraordinarily lucky, really. And that this is happening at this time in my life, that I'm having a love affair at age 94.
The pair rely on each other.
If I hadn't had Burl's arm, I don't know that I would have finished that half marathon.
Reminding us that amongst tragedy,
it did impact me.
And triumph,
and I have a hell of a lot of good luck.
What is most important are the people around us.
Another new addition this year, the starting line and the finishing line are getting an upgrade. Here's your first look at the new design.
Instead of the arches you used to see, in its place will be 2 pillars flanking the start and finish lines. Race Director Kerry Watkins says the refreshed look will be updated and more modern. It will also make the structures more sturdy.
We just try to design and engineer start and finish lines that can withstand the wind and can handle Oklahoma weather. And it looks like all the other races are doing them all over the country for the exact same reasons.
Still to come, we're getting to know more of the athletes taking part in this year's Run to Remember, including some who have run all 23 memorial marathons and some familiar faces. Leading the pack of runners on race day is a custom SUV you can't miss. Artwork on the Chevy Tahoe features the names of any runner who registered before April 1st. Plus landmarks you'll see along the way, like here at the state capitol.
Among the runners are 2 people who participated in every single Run to Remember since 2001. And they talked with News 9's David Payne about why they keep coming back.
Of the thousands of runners who have run the Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon, there's only about 40
That's so cool. Yeah, ran them all.
that could say they ran them all. Stephen Abernathy and Kevin Stone are 2 of them. Stephen was a police officer with Midwest City at the time of the bombing.
As soon as we got the green light, came down here to volunteer.
He was never a runner, but back in 2001, when the Memorial Marathon was announced, his uncle asked him to join him in the race.
I didn't even know how far a marathon was, so I thought it was pretty crazy to ask me. But being the inaugural, I thought it would be worth giving it a shot and seeing if it's something that I could do. But when I finished that first marathon, I thought maybe it was a fluke that I was able to get it done. So I thought I'd go back the second year and test that theory.
And he's just kept coming back.
After the bombing, it just felt like I didn't do enough. And this way I can still keep doing and giving and remembering and honoring.
Kevin Stone had already run a couple of marathons back in 2001.
Based on what this one was representing and the purpose of it, then a bunch of us came up and ran the first one.
By 06, the memorial was already tracking who had run them all, so he couldn't quit. And it's still so much more than a race.
I think this one's special because it's a marathon, but it's about so much more than running. It's about the whole community coming together. My part in the marathon is to run the marathon, but it's no more important than the people that are out on their lawn drinking a cup of coffee, cheering us on. It's about the community coming together and showing resilience.
And the folks who watch Kevin running past notice something a little different. Today, he's training in these sandals, but race day, he's completely barefoot.
You run by houses, after you get past them, people are suddenly like, oh my gosh, that guy didn't have any shoes on. and a lot of people are like, hey, I used to have a pair just like that.
Both have run through all types of weather and minor injuries. Kevin had stomach surgery in February, but both say they'll keep running until they no longer can.
When you start looking at those signs on the course, it's emotional. Yeah. Then you see running in honor of on people's shirts. Yes. Every year.
So David will be keeping track of the top runners on the men's side, and our Lacey Swope will be keeping track of the top female competitors.
And she talked to local business owner, musician, and activist J.B. Williams, who's lacing up for the half.
3, 2, 1.
I'm not a runner, but that's one race I try to run every year.
Right now, Oklahoma City rapper and two-time Emmy Award winner J.B. Williams is training for 13.1 miles in the Run to Remember.
I just run like 2 or 3. I try just to run a couple miles in the morning time, a couple times a week.
JB's been out on the road performing until just a few days before the big race. The music that's been inspiring JB since he first started rapping at 5 years old, now the soundtrack for his training sessions.
I got a Nipsey playlist, a Tupac playlist. I got a Wu-Tang playlist. I'll get excited while I'm running and rapping and realize I'm losing my breath.
But that's not why he's doing this.
When I ran that first time, whenever they had the pictures of the people who died in the bombing, and you're running, and you're seeing those faces, and it just, it makes you run harder. It makes you like really feel something, and you realize what this is for, what it's about.
Have you ran a half before?
This will be my third. Started running the 5K like 2016, 2017. There are people in my family who always ran every year, and so I just wanted to be part of it.
And after that first race, he was hooked.
Just that feeling of like, man, it's like one big team, but it's like thousands of us, you know what I'm saying? I get to do a lot of stuff in my life, and that's one thing that I do that I can't even explain the feeling, It's emotional.
You can track your favorite runner on race day with the free Oklahoma City Memorial Marathon app. It'll give you live updates from start to finish in real time. Sports director Dean Blevins shows us which runners could be competing for first place this year.
Previous marathon winners are at the top of the list to watch again. For the women, Mikhail Montgomery from Stillwater is an early favorite. She set the women's course record last year at 2 hours, 41 minutes. Mikhail also won the Memorial Marathon in 2013. On the men's side, another Stillwater product, Bryant Kearns. He won the men's marathon last year, finishing in 2 hours, 24 minutes. He's running the half this year. Another guy to keep an eye on, Jerry Faulkner. He's fresh off a win at the Classic Dualathon in New York City last month. He also won the Memorial Marathon in 2006.
Don't go away. We are walking you through the best places on the course to watch the race, plus the most popular spot on the course, how Gorilla Hill became a race day tradition.
Organizers say in addition to the thousands of runners and volunteers, they are expecting supporters to line the course route.
Race directors say these are the best locations to watch the race. Bricktown, where you can see just how big the sea of runners is. Historic neighborhoods, Northeast 18th and Culbertson, Edgemere Park near 36 and Robinson, Crown Heights near 38 and Chartel.
Waverly Avenue in the Village between Wilshire and Britton, Nichols Hills Plaza near 63rd and Grand. There are also great spectator spots in the Asian District near Northwest 23rd and Classen, and of course the Big Finish near Scissortail Park. And we can't leave out the best known stop along the course, right here at Northwest 40th and Chartel.
Gorilla Hill. Our Colby Thielen will be here during the marathon, and he'll show us how this hot spot got its name.
A homeowner that lives along this stretch of mile number 7 says when he ran a marathon years ago, they named every hill they ran during training. So when it came to the hill in front of his home, he says he got the name from a larger-than-life object that caught his eye.
A beast uncaged.
Hang on.
Or rather, unrolled.
All right, Zach, reach in there, pull that thing apart.
From the garage of Steve Cole.
It only comes out once or twice a year.
It comes out to much fanfare. It's not 800 pounds.
Yeah, all right.
But a heavy lift nonetheless.
Do it from this side. Whoa, 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 whoa. Pull that leg around that way. Pull that. You're in the belly of the beast. Okay. Every year you're like, how did we do that?
It's the weight of tradition. 7 miles in.
That's all right.
Raised on the corner of 40th and Chartel. And raised again. And again. Raised every race for the past 13 years.
You know, it's not a burden, it's a privilege, and we're just really lucky to be part of it.
Since the first Memorial Marathon, Cole knew this house on the route had to be involved.
I would come out and yell at the runners and have fun and try to do my own water stop. It's really hard to fill like 4,000 Dixie cups with water with a hose.
But a new opportunity would present itself off of a highway in Edmond.
Seeing an inflatable gorilla in front of a car lot, and then the thing is clicking in my head and they're saying, we gotta have that gorilla, and then we'll be Gorilla Hill right here. Yeah, that'll work.
Eventually, he bought his own gorilla. As for the hill,
we don't have steep hills in Oklahoma. So as Oklahoma goes, it's a hill.
And it's elevated even his expectations.
Yeah, it's kind of taken on a life of its own, but it's been totally worth it, and we just have a lot of fun with it.
Fun they like to share.
Well, yeah, we are known for having a good time.
A good time with more than just a 25-foot ape.
I have about 20 cases of bananas donated. Then we have like 75 to 100 people in banana suits. We're high-fiving runners. They're coming through. It's really colorful, really vibrant, really joyful.
A joyful day. And for Cole, an important day of remembrance.
There's a real sense of community, and that is part of what the Oklahoma Standard's about, I think. It's a bigger thing than sometimes we realize just living here. So awesome and so inspiring.
When competing in a marathon, ascending this hill might just be the inspiration runners need to uncage that beast within.
The night before the race, they also put up a giant arch that goes across Chartel, and it has names of sponsors on it. But those sponsors don't pay for Gorilla Hill. Instead, that money is donated to the National Memorial and Museum.
With a track of more than 26 miles, there will be some road closures in Oklahoma City, Nichols Hills, and the Village.
For Sunday morning, the first mile that begins right in front of the memorial will close down at 4:30. All other roadways on the route will be closed by 7:15. Roads will reopen in waves as runners advance past them, with the earliest reopening at 8:30. The latest road reopens at 1:40 Sunday afternoon. For a full map of shutdowns for Saturday and Sunday, go to news9.com.
Up next, we're wrapping up our Run to Remember coverage with a party at the finish line.
Plus, the makers behind the t-shirts and medals every runner will receive when they're done.
On race day, Carl and I will be down here in the heart of Oklahoma City at the finish line right near Scissortail Park.
After the grueling run, runners, volunteers, spectators, family, and friends will all gather here to celebrate the Run to Remember. The Finish Line Festival kicks off 8:30 Sunday morning. There will be live music from Oklahoma event and cover band Drive.
This is also where every runner who finishes will receive their official marathon medal. It takes a full year to design, then produce all 26,000 medals and t-shirts for the event. Lacey Lowry takes us inside the manufacturing process.
Hot off the press,
and bursting with color. These Memorial Marathon t-shirts are all shipping out before the race.
All hands on deck, making sure it all gets done, all gets delivered.
Calamity Jane's Apparel in Oklahoma City designed and printed the 26,000 shirts.
We're really proud to be a part of this. It's a really great symbol for Oklahoma because our shirts don't just stay here locally. They go out all across the country and the world. And it's just a small snippet of what the Oklahoma Standard is.
Jasmine Farmer's family loves being a part of this labor of love. That's her mom sorting shirts.
It is fun. And for our kids who are like, hey Mom, there's a shirt out there, there's your shirt, or whatever the case is. It's so much fun to see people running on the streets, running through the sidewalks, practicing, and just like walking around town in those shirts. It's something to really be proud of.
Every color represents a different race, like the Governor's Relay, the Kids Marathon, the 26-miler.
We are actually already starting on next year's race, so it's a year-long process.
The design each year always focuses on the survivor tree. That's true from the cotton to the brass.
To see that tree evolve, the tree has changed, it's blossomed, it's grown, and the medal changes every year with that tree.
MTM Recognition in Midwest City has created the participant medals since the marathon started in 2001.
I think this is the most important thing that we do each and every year.
The trophy company makes a lot of very recognizable national awards, but the one that takes top prize for MTM is the Memorial Marathon Medal.
Our purpose statement is celebrating champions, and the marathon does it better than any organization. When you come through the marathon finish line and you're draped with a medal, it's significant. It means a lot.
Mike Ketcherside runs the marathon each year.
The very first medal was obviously just green. That was the color. So it certainly has evolved.
He has quite the collection of marathon medals his company made over the years.
And a lot of our employees lived it. They remember 1995 and the tragedy that struck this great city. And so for us to be a part of that was really meaningful to our employees.
It's delivery day. Nearly 2 tons of medals now sitting in the marathon warehouse.
Here's the big one.
Waiting to be distributed on race day.
Awesome. Good, Mike.
17,500 medals that will hang proudly on the necks of everyone who runs to remember.
Once the race is over, it's time to refuel. Every marathon, half marathon, and relay runner will get a free burger after they cross the finish line on Sunday. Spark at Scissortail Park will be grilling up 10,000 of those patties, with a little help from other businesses with big grills.
Probably start around 4, maybe 4:30, and hopefully we can crank out about 2,000 every hour until we're done.
There's also a bell at the Finish Line Festival for runners who set a new personal record. Give the PR bell a ring to celebrate. To watch this year's special again, just go to our News 9 streaming app on Roku, Apple TV, and Amazon. News 9 will be at every Memorial Marathon event once the weekend gets started.
Our crews will be covering all of the races from start to finish, mile by mile. Make sure to tune in for our special coverage all weekend long, and then of course on the big race day, Sunday, starting at 6 a.m.
We'll see you this weekend for the Run to Remember.
Run to Remember has been presented by Devon Energy.